Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. I'm here with the coach, John Brent.
And I'm here with the vet, Mr. Ian Griffin. What's up, my man?
What is going on, man? I heard you're leaving the East Texas area.
Man, I am in Austin, Texas right now, right here in the liberal country of California, of Texas. I'm telling you, I'm feeling the pressure right now. I'm feeling the pressure. But we got really two intelligent people with us tonight. Thank goodness. Makes me always look better. And so first and foremost, I'm so happy to see my man Ira, the most intelligent man in the room at all times, I'm sure, coming in from South Carolina tonight, which is a little different. So here we go. Tell me what's going on, Ira.
Well, good news for me, my family today. I welcomed my fourth grandson, Heath, was born today at 2:41, so I'm a proud grandfather. The original plan was to be present while he was being born. However, with the recent spike in the Delta version of the COVID and others, they restricted us, and so I was not able to witness my grandson's birth today. So that's a sad thing about it, and that's what we'll talk about a little bit later on during the podcast.
Look at that right there. That's a pole vaulter all day long.
Yeah, that's a pole vaulter. Bear with me here. I've been talking all day seemingly, but we can talk a little bit later on about the Olympic stuff. Now, I actually did a last chance qualifier for the 1988 Olympics when I was in Germany, but I didn't qualify because I got beat up by some Germans who were really good on the track right there, Neckar Stadion in downtown Stuttgart near the Mercedes factory. But I pole vault, and that's a picture of me running at the University of North Carolina, Pembroke. So I was a very good track runner, both collegiate level and international, and also ran for the 7th Corps track team in Germany many years ago. And I was number 1 in Europe, number 3 in the Army in the hurdles and pole vault. So I have an extensive background in athletics when it comes to that, and running internationally and representing the American flag, the American people, and being an ambassador everywhere I went. That was an important thing. Being an ambassador, being proud of your country, and it's what athletes come together to do. Represent your country because you're the best.
Man, I love to hear that. I mean, I remember growing up, it's like so many athletes were so proud to represent their, not just United States, but whatever country they were running or swimming or jumping for. And you could see so much pride. I remember I'd always watch the podium, and whoever won and they would play that national anthem, almost every single person would just, tears in their eyes. It was just a great, pride thing. And, I hope that still stays that way now. I know we've had, some people protesting, but I think you're right. I mean, it's just such great pride to do something for your country. And it should be.
It definitely should. It definitely should be. I tell you, athletic sports in general, that brings people together. I mean, if you look at the Olympics, from the time the Olympics had started, even throughout the Cold War, we still had representation, and it itself was like a war, if you will. So the best of the best of the best to represent your country. And you look at and I'm going to contrast something. I actually worked with a former Olympian who had qualified for the middle distance races, and I forget his last name, I'm sorry, but he was a distance runner, but was not able to go to the 1980 Olympics because what happened in 1980? It was boycotted by the president. Or in America, we had to boycott it because of the things that were going on in the Soviet Union at the time. But, things that's going on right now in the Olympics, that's sweet, with a lot of the athletes taking a knee. And then you have college students in general say, I want my team to lose. I want Americans to lose. I think there's been a general attitude directed towards the Olympics these days.
Well, Ira, it's good to have you on here. And I will tell you, I know another pole vaulter, that Ian Griffin guy pole vaulted in junior high. I sucked. I couldn't bend the pole like you did. I weighed too little for all that, to be honest with you. You had to be over like 110 pounds to bend the pole that we had. But I gave a lot of effort. Didn't do too well. But I will say, I remember as a soldier competing against being in Germany doing multinational events out there, that was a lot of camaraderie. People enjoyed the fellowship, but they also enjoyed, hey, we're Americans, or hey, we're Germans, and we do this and such. And but I got to pause a second because I got to introduce the loose cannon himself, Don McCush. I got to move from the pirate to the loose cannon and give him his introduction here. We can get started tonight, but it's great to have Don McCush. He has already prophesied to me that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will repeat this year without a shadow of a doubt, is what he told me. So I'm throwing it over to you, Don. What do you got?
True, it's true, it's true. Hey, greetings from the Heartland. I'm in KCMO, getting ready for all the college students to return to school this year. So the pace is starting to pick up. The summer break is starting to wind down. And the picture I sent you was on a slightly different take. It's not tied to the Olympics, but it's tied to family vacations. And wouldn't it be awesome for us to all get back into a normal routine where we can take trips as families together? And look how happy we all were. That was pre-COVID. I can't wait for that to be the picture of post-COVID.
Don, I'll say this is I agree with you. And the one thing I'll say is you put a picture of your family across there. And we heard a couple weeks ago, Alan Bailey and Stephanie Valentine came on and they go, "This is my world." And really that's every American's, to be honest, is that's what they live for. That's what they do things for. That's where they are. But good to have you on here, the great loose cannon. And it's good to have the pirate on here from also Scotland as well. And so from that, we're going to throw it all over to the coach because I think he's got some good stuff to talk about tonight.
Well, in the background, I just saw the 800-meter final, and of course the American girl won. It was great to see the split screen with her family and friends just absolutely losing their mind because she won. That's what it's about, Ira and Don. But one of the things I do want to talk about with the Olympics is one of the big stories of last week was Simone Biles dropping out. And at the beginning of it, I was a little bit upset about it. I thought she was a quitter. I still feel like she quit on her team because whatever's going on, that's just my personal opinion. And I said at the time, I said, well, if she totally drops out because she has some mental issues and doesn't come back, then, then I can understand that and support that. But then I'm hearing that she's come back for another event. So I don't really know what to think about that myself. So I'm going to put it to you. But the question that we have is a couple of them is, does the media or society bear some responsibility with Simone Biles? Because, you think about it in the past, we'd always look at is, if you're in athletics, it does get tough. It does get to be a mental issue. I mean, I used to throw up sometimes before a game. It was just that much pressure. And I'm not talking about Olympic pressure, but she's been under pressure for years. Maybe the last year with having the pressure of, some of the things that she went with the coach and things like that, and with COVID. But we're all dealing with those types of things with COVID and these major issues that we're dealing with. So my question I want to start out with Ira is, and then I'll kick it to Don, is does the media or society bear some responsibility with Simone Biles? And if so, how?
I would definitely agree that the media and the society at large bear a great bit of responsibility for her decisions, if you will. Now, the mental aspect of that, that's something that, again, it's her purview, if you will, and I will respect that, and I will hope that the media, or the hype in the media, and then the personal or the social pressures that she should she should have participated in it, because everyone's a Monday morning quarterback, if you will. I've done that too, and like you said earlier, I was a little confused at first, but in the end, it's a decision that the coaching staff as well as the athlete have to make. And I get to watch some of the events going, and I tell you, as an athlete myself, and I haven't competed in years, I still get butterflies in my stomach because it's like I'm there. And I tell you, myself, I'm using myself as a model here. There is that pressure. There's that individual pressure to perform. There's that social pressure to perform. There's that peer pressure. And you have to make the best choices, and the coaches have to make the best choices for the team. Because I tell you, I've been out there running track or what have you, where I was sick and I did not perform well, and I hazarded the other team, where someone could have ran in a position and probably performed better for me, for the team that day. Other things that play into this thing, obviously, is this COVID-19. I understand that they don't have any spectators there. Athletics is a spectator sport. You need people cheering and jeering. You need it because it gives them that added kick, that added adrenaline. Like, hey, I've got a crowd of people watching me. I'd better perform. But to perform in front of an empty stadium, that's just like practice. It's not motivating.
Yeah, and y'all also, but Don, you have to think about this is, the situation with the mental issues that have over the last few even months, even with the girl that was a tennis player, saying I don't want to speak to media. Over the last few years, mental awareness has become a whole lot bigger thing than it was, say, 15 years ago. We were just told as kids when we were playing, just suck it up. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but a lot of times the coach just say, you know what, if you're not feeling nervous and you're not about to throw up and you're not ready for the game, it's just kind of part of being an athlete that you get yourself worked up, learn how to breathe, learn how to get, as calm as you can. But, nowadays, I don't know if it's a softer society or are we being more aware and it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. So I'm still kind of up in the air on it. Don, what do you think about the whole situation with Simone and the mental health and with backing out of the Olympic all around?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all those factors that you mentioned, and who knows, what percentage of each one of those factors, it really is. I remember that it was before the incident with Simone Biles, we were watching a Russian athlete on the men's gymnastics team with an Achilles that had just healed, months before, and all his coaches and doctors saying you should not be out there, and he went out there and competed, and it was very dangerous, and there was a mental toughness there. And I don't say that to compare him. I just say that because my initial reaction was that's where I had just come from the week before, and now I'm watching her react to her mental health challenges. And so initially I was very disturbed by it. Growing up again in the 80s, our biggest competition was Russia. So naturally I'm doing this comparison of mental toughness between the Russian athlete who went out on the gymnastics floor and then the American athlete. But then, all the media posts started going, and I was reading and digesting those. And the one I distinctly remember was retired General Martin Dempsey. And he posted about how he was really disturbed that he saw a bunch of people calling her weak. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on board with what he's saying here. Why are we calling her weak? She's a champion. She's won multiple medals. She's done more in her career and risen to a greater level in her career than I'll ever rise in my career. She's a star. But then Dempsey went on to say that what she was doing was heroic. And that bothered me too, because yeah, she's definitely not weak, but to turn around and turn this into something where we're calling her heroic, I was bothered by just as much. She's a champion. She's a gold medalist. She is the best at what she does. And for someone like General Dempsey to use the word heroic, that's the same person that would, and this is what I was sharing with, Ian earlier. Had there been a single one of his company commanders or first sergeants out there on the battlefield in the middle of competition, going against another country, and that company commander or first sergeant went up to General Dempsey and said, I'm not in a right place mentally. I recommend that my deputy just take over this job right now. I know we're in the middle of this competition, but I'm not there. He would court-martial that person, or he would send them to military prison and call them. He would. The fact that the same person could call someone heroic because that's what the media wants him to say but in his own life, he wouldn't live out those ideals as a leader, bothered me as much. So to say that, I guess you know, I leave it at that. I think she's a champion. I am proud that, you know, this is what she felt she needed. I'm proud of the gymnast that came in to fill in the role for her and for that gymnast to medal. I think that's wonderful. What a great story and what a great memory for that individual to be on the back, you know, be the backup person, and then to be able to come on board and not only compete but win. I think that's a great story. Those are probably the stories that we should focus on.
Exactly. Let me add this right quick, and while we're on it, and we talk about the peer pressure, the coaching staff pressure. There's I don't know if you recall during the earlier Olympics, we want to beat up on the Russians. Let's continue to beat up on the Russians. But there was a Russian gymnast. Her name was Yelena Machina, and she had died in 2006 from complications of quadriplegia. Basically, what happened was she had broken her leg. All right. Before that, she had won the all-around world championships in France, and then about a couple of weeks or so before the opening of the 1980 Olympics, she was being forced by her coaching staff to perform a maneuver that had nearly been perfected by the men. So she would have been one of the few women who would have performed this very difficult floor trick, but in doing so, required perfect timing, the stress of the coaching staff to get her to perform so she can be the best of the best. Well, she had fallen, mistimed, and she broke her neck. And of course, she had died somewhat 20-something years later as a result of her injuries. But when an athlete said that something's wrong with them, believe them, because it could be an illness, mental illness, or something, or physical illness. You don't want to injure your runners and stuff, because we look at Miss Biles. She's 24 years old. She has a long career ahead of her if she's smart about it.
Well, and I agree, I totally understand what you're saying. I think in society, especially in sports, we've been put up with these great performances when in times of, you know, trials or tribulations. Like you think of Carrie Strug. I mean, when you think of the word Carrie Strug, you think about that, you know, that final moment of her with that messed up ankle, hitting that dismount, you know, in front of the Olympics and all of us, the world. You also think of Brett Favre. I thought of Brett Favre. I was like, this guy, you know, his dad passed away, and he goes out and has the performance of his life. You know, and we always look at those types of stories in sports as these great stories. And I think we kind of sometimes prop all athletes up to have to deal with it at that level, or we consider them, as you used the word, weak, or maybe as a quitter, the word that I've used, when, you know, everyone has their own battle, you know, at different times. And, you know, it's not like she's never performed. It's not like she made the Olympics the first time and is #1 in the world and is about to achieve that first gold and just can't deal with it. I mean, this is the greatest gymnast of all times, possibly. And, you know, it's not like she hadn't done it. I think it just, whatever happened, either with society going, okay, now we can come out with these mental issues and be public and people not feel bad about it, or is it just too much at one time? I don't know, Vet. It's like I said in the beginning, I posted online, you know, that she quit on her team. And as a coach, I mean, I couldn't imagine my #1 quarterback coming to me right at the state final game, which I was in a few years ago, and say, Coach, I just can't deal with it. I just can't have it. You're going to have it to the backup now. I mean, I'd be like, dude, suck it up. What are you talking about? You know, but, you know, it's different.
Well, Coach, so first of all, I'm all over the place on this, to be honest. I'm like with everybody and everything on all of it. She's a quitter. Yeah, I'm with that. Hey, she stood up for herself. Yeah, I'm for that too. I'm just kind of – so a couple of things I'm going to say. She's 24 years old. And you think about 24 years old. When we think about an NFL quarterback, normally they don't make the Super Bowl at 24 years of age. We sit there and say an NFL quarterback, oh, he's young. He's doing his mistakes. He's still got some growth to do before he learns how to lead. So of all things, I will say that maybe she has challenges leading, being put in the leadership role. She was put in that leadership role, and I think it's evident that was too much for her. Her ability to be a great gymnast, I don't dispute that, but I will say her bowing out has cast me some doubt at 24 years of age. Most gymnasts, that is an old age. You know, has she lost some of her luster? I don't know. But what we've seen so far in Tokyo, it seems that maybe she had. That don't mean I'm knocking her. That's just my first thing I'm asking is, okay, she's not executing this as well. She's not executing this well. She's not executing this as well. The media, though, the thing I have with the media is, okay, she bows out and she's going to go do her, she's going to take a knee. And then some people that would have had a chance didn't. Some of them got a chance to come back in and some of them didn't, But the media, as soon as the group won the silver, what was the load like for having to fill in for Simone Biles? Not, hey, Ian Griffin, you just won the freaking silver medal. That's a freaking pretty badass thing. Now, what was the load for? They freaking had put her so far on a pedestal, which much of that she deserved. But I think they put her on the pedestal so far that she can't achieve what their expectation is. Go ahead, Coach. I'm sorry.
Well, as we're sitting here talking about this, I'm looking on the Olympics right now, and Simone Biles and the other ones are coming out to do the finals of the balance beam. So she didn't totally have such a mental breakdown that she couldn't compete anymore in the Olympics. She just, for some reason, was done at that time, and now she's back. And this is one of the things that I posted at the time. I said, if she's done and she's done because she's mentally done, I mean, we can understand that, respect that. But if she comes back, she quit on her team. So I'm not going to back away from that. But right now they're getting ready to do that. And I'm thinking, what in the hell am I watching right now?
Yeah. Well, I won't let the cat out of the bag what she got, but yeah, I already read up on. I'm sorry, Ira, but I think the media on this though, when she bowed out, they didn't need to be they didn't have to be an ego spectacle about the dang thing. They could have sit there and go, hey, I got some other people I got to take care of here in their accomplishments, and let's push this aside and not make it about Simone Biles, and let's make it about the people who won. And that's what should have happened. And that didn't ever, even when Sonny Lee sit there and won the whole thing, they still referred back to her. And I'm like, hey, hold on a second. Let me stop the brakes here. This is a gold medalist. This is the creme of the creme, period. I don't know what the problem is there. And so, but that's not to blame it on Miss Biles, because Miss Biles had no part of that. That wasn't her doing. Her doing is she's a great athlete, and she can do great things on that floor like nobody ever saw before. And she's having a hard time right now, and she needs to deal with that, I guess. But part of me does feel that, hey, because of how the media has exacerbated this, it puts me in the position that makes me think, man, I kind of think she kind of quit. But that's not necessarily the case. It's just how it's been painted, because they're trying to overcompensate so much on this. Go ahead, Ira. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, let's look at it for some external factors. Perhaps there are some things going on in her family that's concerning her. All right. You never know what happens in the person's personal life, if you will. To include right now is that, well, we've hyped her up, the society and the media as a whole. But at the same time, there are those people out there who would actually like to see her fail. Maybe that's why the focus is on her. She's going to falter. She's going to fail. We know it. And maybe that's one of the things, pressure. I tell you, and I look at one of my neighbors whose son runs, Coach Carl Lewis is his coach, and he was running some of the sprints, and the kid who I watched grow up, he's about 6'8" now, he had fallen during the qualifier for this Olympics, and his dad told him, I'm like, really? My gosh. But it's the external pressure, something that can bear on the situation too, and maybe we need to look at that.
Well, last thing I want to say on this, and anybody else can jump in if they want to, but I've always the reason that I love sports so much, I played 5 sports in high school, and what I've always loved about sports is anything from Lou Gehrig to Mickey Mantle to the great people of the 70s and 80s, and you had all these external issues that would come up in their lives, and they would overcome them, or they did it with grace, and they did it with humility, and they just overcame no matter what. And so as a person that's a normal guy just trying to live life, I don't always want to go to work, and I don't always want to be a great dad, and I don't always want to be parenting. But you can't just give up and say, I'm not going to work today. And maybe our society's getting to a point where we're going to have mental days, or we're going to have, but you're not going to get mental days at parenting. You're not going to get mental days at being a husband. So I'm not saying that she's a loser by any stretch of the imagination. Actually, prior to this Olympics, I had a conversation with a friend of mine. I said, and they asked me, who would you think in the last 20, 25 years, because I was talking about my hero growing up was Bruce Jenner. Believe it or not, in 78 or 79, I dressed up as Bruce Jenner freaking Halloween because that was my hero, Caitlyn freaking Jenner. But anyway, and I said, from that time to now, Simone Biles is probably the most unbelievable athlete I've ever seen. And this was, a few months ago. So it has nothing to do with her athletic ability, but the quitting on the team aspect as being a coach. And I don't know her personal, what she's going through from the Larry Nassar thing to, I even brought up personal family issues. Maybe she was spinning in the air. And like she said, that's very dangerous. But it just felt like, from the last 100 years of sports, when they show all these sports figures, these great heroes that we have and these great champions that we see, that they always overcame. And that's why we endure them so much. That was just my thought of it.
I know one thing, Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there some sort of scandal about the gymnast coach or something and harassing or something along that lines?
Right. I thought his name was Larry Nassar. Maybe I'm wrong on the name, but I think not only was it harassing, but some kind of sexual issues. Maybe I'm totally off on that, but she had to deal with that over the last couple of years.
Okay, maybe, again, a number of things, exactly. It's amazing. But I would like to come to your house this Halloween if you're going to dress up as Bruce Caitlyn Jenner.
Hey, I'm going to tell you right now. If I dress up as Bruce Jenner, I'm going to need a size 12 men's high heel. I don't know if they got them.
He's going as Caitlyn.
Coach, the only other thing is, although she is on a team sport, she's really grown up as a individual competitor. And so she probably approached it mentally different than, say, a football player or a baseball player that's truly part of a team. Even team gymnastics, you're competing individually and you're rolling scores together to get a team score. It's not like each team member is really reliant on the performance. So having been an athlete her whole life and being an individual athlete, she's probably just not grown up with that team ethic that comes from growing up as a kid doing team sports. So maybe there's an aspect there too.
And I can see that definitely, because it's not, it's like if you're a golfer and you're in the Olympics, you're with the U.S. golf team, but you can win your gold medal by how you play individually. So I understand exactly what you're saying.
Coach, we got Stephanie Lynn. She explains that Mr. Nassar sexually assaulted his gymnast was the issue. And I can relate what you were saying earlier, though, Coach. I grew up, you looked at a box of Wheaties, of Bruce Jenner on there when we were kids, but I never wanted to dress like him. But you looked at the people who made on the Wheaties were the people who had transcended through adversity and met all challenges and made the pinnacle. And that's what you looked at to aspire to be. And are we going to go to a society, and we need to move on here, but are we going to go to a society where, hey, they aspired to be, but hey, they tapped out at the end because they had some issues going on? And is that going to be on the box of Wheaties later, or are we going to stick with the box of Wheaties standard of they being champions or things of that nature? I don't know, so.
Well, I'm going to kick this back to you, the vet, here in just a second. The last thing I'm going to say is I did have someone say, hey, we are becoming a participation ribbon type of society. So we're just it seems like we're getting to be a softer type society when it comes to a lot of things. But, I would always hope that we'd have that, Edwin Moses, that Bruce Jenner, that Lou Gehrig, and that, somebody that's just overcame something. And then we could all go, you know what, I'm going to overcome also. That's just me.
Well, Coach, so this was a good topic. So we got to move on. And real quick, I got to throw a little advertisement out here. Got me a Coach in the Vet hat. So if you come to our website, www.thecoachinthevet.com, you can find all our write-ups, you can find all our podcasts, and you can find our stuff that we sell that helps pay for this right here. And Don, thank you for buying some of our stuff. You didn't think I'd throw it out there. So moving along, we're going to talk about something different from the Olympics. and we're going to talk about, is the mask mandate making a comeback? Is it? Don't call it a comeback. I think it is a comeback. But so first of all, I'm going to start with Don. Do you think? What are your thoughts on the government stressing the severity? And I'm going to throw one stat out there before I do, but the severity of the Delta variant. And so, real quick, the beautiful little bitty town of Washington, D.C. has 5.3 million people that live in that general area right there. Out of that area in the month of July, there were 8 deaths contributed to COVID. There were 21 deaths contributed to homicide. So now I'm going to throw it back out here to you, Don. Do you think, what are your thoughts on the government stressing the new severity of the Delta variant?
Man, I got so many thoughts on this. First, I didn't want the vaccine to begin with, but I got it. Second, after I got and I did it for the greater good, because I was told if we get vaccinated, we won't have to wear masks. Number 2, after my first vaccination, my reaction was so extreme that, I almost passed out in front of the classroom 6 hours after the vaccine. I had severe reactions for a good 24 hours, to the point where I had people actually encouraging me not to get the second one. But I prepped myself. I made sure I was well rested, ate well, lots of fluids in my body, so that when I got this, took the plan to take a day off after the second vaccine. And my reaction wasn't as bad, but I could have just backed out of the first one. So anyway, get the vaccine, and now the federal government has mandated mask wearing for all federal employees, whether they've been vaccinated or not. What was the point of my vaccination? I know what the point of the mask mandate is. The point of the mask mandate is for people like me to put peer pressure on those that chose not to get vaccinated. And because the government doesn't have the leadership ability to convince people to get vaccinated, they're turning to Americans to put pressure on each other. Hey, if you want to get out of your mask, you got to convince your neighbors to get vaccinated. That's the game they're playing right now. So here in Kansas City, the mayor of Kansas City made it a mask mandate within all buildings inside the city, and the state attorney general is now suing him. St. Louis also did this, and as soon as the state attorney general dropped the lawsuit on St. Louis lifted their mask mandate. But the Kansas City mayor, Quentin Lucas, is vehemently defending his decision. Anyway, I think it's all ridiculous. For those that have chosen not to get vaccinated, that's a risk that they've taken, and it should not impinge on my rights. I did what the government asked. I went and got vaccinated. If this Delta variant is going to spread more, well, then my neighbors can get vaccinated, or they can take on their own risks. It shouldn't fall on me to deal with that.
Oh, I'm going to throw it over here to Ira. And what are your thoughts on this here? Do you think the severity is there? Do you think that maybe it's just more contagious, or do you think that the death toll's there? Because so far, I'm not really seeing the death toll on all this here. So what are your thoughts on it, Ira?
I think I could write a Dr. Seuss book out of this thing. I will not wear my mask in a car. I will not wear it near or far. But anyway, there were some places, Mississippi, I think it was Oklahoma, and then one or two other states that had a problem where they did not do a lot of the inoculation or the vaccinations. And so there were some spikes there. So the threat is to those people who have not gotten the vaccinations, in any form or fashion. I do believe that this is a very contagious and a very rapid virus that was spread rapidly, the Delta variant. However, understand through the science that if you have already been vaccinated, it lessens the outcome of any potential if you do get some sort of symptoms or something of the COVID-19. Now, there's this thing, and I forget the term already. I've heard it so many times. It's just like a blur, where people are fully vaccinated. I think the Senator Graham who's been fully vaccinated, has contracted the the Delta variant of the virus. But the bottom line is that it's a control factor. I was told, get the shot, trust the science. I'm following the science. I will mask up where I know I need a mask to provide comfort to those that either one have not been vaccinated, or two, as part of compliance. Like, for instance, I was going to go to the hospital today to witness my grandchild's birth. However, we could not get in because of the Delta variant of COVID. It's been hitting in the area, I understand, and so wasn't allowed. So it affects us as a whole. But what I don't want is a mandate. So you will take this shot here. And I think that's what's happening right now with the Department of Defense ordering, through the president ordering the servicemen and women to be vaccinated. I understand that. I mean, we've all taken some sort of shot, and we still don't know 20, 30, 40 years what we're taking, you know? Still feel the pains of the GG shot, the gamma globulin shot, and the whatever. An example of that, I was forced to take the second series of the anthrax shot, which I didn't want to take then, but because I was given an order to take it, I took it. But now as a private citizen, don't order me to take something. Okay, so if the science say I get vaccinated, I will not catch the virus as a result of me being vaccinated. I'll be fine with that. I say you're already dying between the time you're born and the time you actually die. Get on with the business of living. It's time for us to go back to living. And I tell you, Don, the beautiful picture of the family. I want to see people out there having fun with their families. I'm tired of this COVID stuff.
I'm going to throw it over to Coach John Brent, but you brought up 2 points that I want to hit, and I'm throwing it over to you, Coach. One is we're doing this for the comfort. We've been doing that for a whole year for the comfort of the other person, and as we should be as a society looking after our neighbors. But I can't help it. My neighbors have angst and anxieties and the fear factor of certain things, so I have to compensate for that in some ways. You know, I have to overexert myself and throw on all these other articles because they have this fear, you know, or whatever, or their immune system's bad. But you know, my immune system bad, I'm hanging out on the other side. So anyway, let me throw it over to the coach. Go ahead, Coach.
Well, I've got a couple of things on this. First and foremost, my wife has had COVID twice, and I've had COVID once. Neither one of us have been vaccinated. One of the things that one of her friends, she's in the medical field, she's been a nurse practitioner for over 20 years, and one of her best friends is an epidemiologist and infectious disease doctor. And one of the things that the doctor says, and she hasn't been vaccinated, is that when it comes to things like this historically, and even with something that spreads like this as a variant and it changes, is you can get a vaccine today to something that was produced a month ago, and the virus already be changing, because this type of virus changes a lot. So now we're hearing Delta variant. There's going to be other variants that keep hitting. So her question, the epidemiologist, is this: is the immune system of people that aren't compromised, that aren't obese or have heart disease or diabetes, and people that are young and people that, like myself, that are, I consider myself being pretty good health, is our immune system a better fight for us individually over taking a vaccine, which then the vaccine is going to reduce my body's use of its own immune system against this changing? And should we be focusing more on the 65 and above crowd and the crowd of people that have major issues? And that's what a lot of us think. I've been listening in the last week to a gentleman that's been doing and I wanted to bring his name up, Gert Vandenbosch, that's been doing, actually been producing vaccines for a number of years. And he is someone that is kind of saying that same thing. So my question is that I have that's been bothering me is, how many people have gotten COVID that survived it, that has got it a second time or a third time that has died then? We're not hearing those types of figures. We also are now starting to hear a figure that I never thought we were going to hear. People that got the vaccine now are not only having to wear a mask, but not only are wearing a mask, but now they're getting COVID a second time themselves, or maybe a first time. And yeah, exactly. And they can spread it to other people. And so we have the 55 beautiful Democrats fleeing Texas a few weeks ago, and 5 of those, all of those guys were vaccinated are spreading that among themselves and to other people. So the mask mandate to me is a bunch of crap, because unless everyone is wearing an N95 mask, you're really not going to not spread it. Yes, it's better if you wear something than nothing. But like my wife said, in the hospital, they are never going to be able to wear anything previous to COVID. Even if you're in a situation where someone has the flu or they're sick or they got a bowl or anything, unless you have an N95. So why aren't the government saying we're mandating N95s if we're going to mandate something?
It's so crazy, Coach. I'm sorry. Let me just third about a quick second. People are wearing masks. Okay, got it. But people also wear pants. But I'm kind of seeing people with the pants down below their buttocks. So people are wearing masks. They're wearing it here. I can see your cute little button nose. It's ineffective. A person who's isolated in the middle of nowhere wearing a full box of either the purple surgical mask or maybe the M95 mask or something, they're still getting the virus and they've never been around. So what gives? That's the thing that just confounds me.
So I got a couple of things here real quick. And then I got to start on the next part of the questions here. Is to me, first of all this leads me to believe that really the people who are our doctors that are in positions of the government that are advising the president, I'm looking at them like, dude, we're not that dumb. What the flip-flop? You tell us to follow the science, and you say that as soon as it comes out of your mouth, that's gospel. Well, where's the science? We haven't seen the science. We've been doing this for a year and a half, and we really have not seen any science. Oh, if you take the mask, I don't know that, because you haven't proven it to me in science. You haven't. You told me to follow the science, and you told me that it's common sense to you, but not common sense to me. Kind of like the president's come out and rebuked some governors, and he says, come on, man, do the right thing. How do you know they're not doing the right thing? Because I haven't seen you do a right thing yet.
Now, what is the right thing?
With this, maybe they are doing the right thing, and maybe you're not. So where is this freaking science? Because I haven't seen it. Nobody has showed it to us. Oh, the CDC said, well, if I ain't learned nothing this last year, I've learned the CD has lost its relevance like CNN did right after Desert Storm. In Desert Storm, CNN was the gospel. Yeah. 5 years later, it done went to hell in a handbasket. And the CDC has done the same thing. When I went to Liberia, CDC was the gospel. Now it has lost its relevance because it can't sit there and not be a puppet of the president. And that's what it has become. But anyway, moving along, the one thing I got to throw out here is, are we rolling down the hill towards a lockdown? That's what I want to know. So I'm throwing it to you, Ira, throwing it right back to you.
I will be the first to be fined and or probably jailed if we have to go to a lockdown. I understand that New York and California has already re-implemented the full face mask and all the nuances that come along with it. Georgia,
Ira, New York City has implemented that in order to go to a restaurant, you have to show a vaccination. Even so, go.
I think it would be a gross violation of our civil rights, period, if that was to be implemented along the national scale. Let the local leagues, because something here in the South, a small town, is not going to be the same setup or same situation in Los Angeles County or some place like that. It's got to be at the local level. People have to be smart about whatever they do, but the government has to be a little bit smarter too. There needs to be some clear, concise investigations done in the near future that really questions a lot. The CDC, Dr. Fauci, Cuomo, anyone that has anything to do with this on a national level that has misinformed us or disinformed us, they need to be questioned. I get so angry. I got to check my blood pressure on this one. I do not know if I'm coming or going. I've been twisted and turned so many times, so many different directions. I don't know. I don't have an answer, but I will not give into a lockdown. I'll stay home and cut my grass and my neighbor's grass if I have to do that. I'm sorry. I don't want to be controlled that level.
So Don, I got to throw it to you. Do you think we're headed down that avalanche?
Hell no. Well, let me say this. There is no way we're going to have another lockdown. No way. Now, this whole proof of vaccine thing, I mean, that's a dangerous slope that might gain some traction. Right now, it's in, certain locations. I would predict that the emerging leader of both parties might come out of this battle, and whoever wins the battle could be the the person that we're looking to potentially be the next president. So if there's a Republican that can gain control over this and take a leadership role. And it's definitely not going to be on the Democratic side, Kamala. She's not even going to touch this. But if there's a Democrat that is able to motivate the nation into convincing them that we're better off to have a proof of vaccine type of system, that person's going to be potentially the next president. Whoever can take this mantle and lead their party to victory, I would suspect is going to be a front runner.
Well, I'm going to throw it to Coach here in just a second, but Dwayne Morris just popped on and said, serious observation. If this virus is so lethal, tell me, why has it not decimated the homeless population in New York and LA? And we ask that all the time, is why has it not? Is it because maybe they rub dirt on it, and the old school days is just go rub some dirt on it and you'll be all right? Or why have we not closed down the freaking southern border? And that's a whole different subject, but we got people coming in that we don't even allow them to and we get mad at the governor because he won't allow them to use transportation that, there's other people going to use because they have not been checked. So, but I got to throw it over to the coach. What do you think? You think we're on this road to lockdown here eventually?
I don't know about a nationwide lockdown, but I will tell you this. I'm a little bit different than a lot of people. I don't just listen to Fox News or Newsmax or whatever. Recently, I've been spending a little bit of time on Sirius XM listening to a guy by the name of Joe Madison, which is on channel 126. And the reason that I've been kind of just listening over and over and over is not so much that he's a great speaker, and actually he's probably one of the most rude people I've ever listened to, even with his people that call in, is that you can get that's the temperature or the thermostat of the left, is that if you're not taking the vaccine, you're being a Southern white Republican, because that's the only people that aren't taking it that's the reason that the country is having this outbreak. That's the reason that we will probably have a lockdown. That's the reason that the mask mandate is still going on. That's the reason that we're going to have COVID over the next 2 years, because the white Southern Republican Trump guys are doing all these bad things. And when we start seeing things like the Lindsey Graham being totally vaccinated, that's not a huge story to them. The Texas Democrats, I never heard one time in 1 week on Madison's show about the five guys that were, or the five people that are already vaccinated getting COVID, because that's not what they're talking about. It is the reason I'm saying this is it becomes, again, a down the middle thing of you're on one side of America or you're on the other side of America. And if you're on one side and you question anything, you question Fauci, you question the CDC, the WHO, the vaccine, the immune system, then you are a conspiracy theorist, white Southern nut. And if you don't just jump on board, take the shot and go, whatever they tell me I'm going to do for the betterment of the country. So again, politics has played a huge role in this. And what it's ending up doing is we don't know who to believe, what to believe, and when to believe it. We've got no mask, wear a mask. Vaccine, you don't need a mask. Vaccine, now you need a mask. I mean, we don't even know what to do. It's like juggling all the time. So what I think it's going to come down to, I don't think there's going to be a nationwide lockdown, but I do think what's going to happen is there are going to be certain states and certain areas that are a concentration of Democrats that are going to have more restrictions, and they're going to allow it. And there's going to be places like Texas that's not going to have as many restrictions because it's more of a conservative type state. And then you're going to still have this debate going into 2022 and 2024, and it's going to be just like the border issue that was in 2016. It's going to be the reason that someone gets reelected for president or someone new comes in. That's my belief.
Yeah, Coach, I don't dispute any of that right there. I honestly think that it's extreme political. It's about leverage. Wholeheartedly is what it's about. It's about control. And two, if I can twist it enough that maybe, hey, I can gain some power back here or maintain power here, that I'm going to do that. But and and part of me sits there and goes, okay, this Delta variant, we see it coming out, but we don't see the death toll on this. So is this the victory that Biden's trying to achieve? Is I got to get everybody scared, so now I got to get my victory. Now I can claim my triumph on this, because too many people were starting to say that actually Trump helped me out at the first part, and I can't get my victory that way. I got to have my soul victory. I can't have a teammate victory. Go ahead, Ira.
Well, I'll tell you what, Coach Vet, you guys are really spot on about this conspiracy theories. And I tell you, for some reason, I have somehow managed to infiltrate some sectors of the black people here. But anyway, that's kind of a little side joke, if you will. But nonetheless, what I have heard a lot of black people talk about, and they relate to the government experimentation with the Tuskegee experiment, if you're familiar with that. And there are reasons why they refuse to take the vaccine, because, well, the government did the syphilis testing on black citizens back in the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s, and later throughout the 70s when they discovered this, and they had to put a stop to it. But they believe that through conspiracy that this vaccine is just another ploy of the government to kill them off there too. So they refuse to take it. So it's not just the Southern white Republican who refuse to take the vaccine, but the bottom line is that the Democrats are very damn good at themes and messaging. And the Republicans, the conservatives, they've got to figure out to get the messages across, even if they have to go in and hurt other people's feelings. Got to get the clear message across. That, I think, will win the hearts and minds of the masses of people. Get the truth out there. Let the people decide.
I agree on that right there. I will say the Republican Party has always lacked in messaging, whereas the Democratic Party, before they start taking care of people, learned how to message as soon as they started breathing air, it seems like. So I got to throw it over to Don. If you got any other comments on this here.
Yeah, I think we kind of hit it. I'm frustrated with the whole situation.
Go ahead, Coach.
Well, I'm still, like I said, just a week ago we did one, and we spoke, or Ian and I spoke for a bit about, I've always thought with my, getting with getting COVID and having a good, healthy immune system and overcoming it, I felt like I would be more protected if I were to get it again than I would. And my wife, like she had it really rough the first time. The second time she got it, was almost like the cold. So my thinking is, and of course I'm no scientist or no doctor, is the way the immune system works, that it's going to be a better, and that's kind of the way that your body's going to fight it itself. But I'm no scientist. I've been thinking maybe I will get the vaccine, but I just can't pull the trigger at this point. And I think it's just because I don't know who to trust. I don't know who to believe in with the science. And it's like I said, I want to believe the science, but show me the science, because I'm talking about this guy the other day is one of the leading scientists in the world that's been producing these vaccines for 20 years for all over the world. And he's saying what we're doing with this is totally wrong. And then we have other ones saying, oh no, you're just a conspiracy theorist. You got to believe this. I just don't know what to believe. And I feel like I'm so frustrated. It's like we talk about it and I don't want to talk about it. And I just wish we could move on.
Well, Coach, I'll say this is, we're going to close this out, but before we do is, I'll say with the conspiracy theory thing, there's nothing wrong with somebody questioning things. Okay. Now, there is something wrong with you questioning it, and then you start throwing it in everybody's lap that the whole world's flat or something like that. That's way out there. But this isn't out there. This is people being inquisitive and saying, hey, this doesn't make sense what you're telling me. Your messaging as administration sucks. It sucks balls. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not messaging right because you haven't convinced me. Okay. And I know your party is used to doing that, is if I tell you, you'll believe me. Well, we don't believe you right now. And that's the whole skinny of the thing. And that's not that we're conspiracy theorists. It's like, that don't make sense. That don't make sense. You wearing a bandana on your face is not a mask. You wearing the same bandana on your face for 5 months is not a mask, And so, and it's not saving nobody, even though Don wants to double down on masks and wants everybody to wear 2 masks. We know that doesn't work. We know that it helps a little bit, but we know that it's not the cure-all that the president comes out. And we also know this: if somebody chooses not to get the vaccine, that don't mean they're a bad guy. That means they have their reasons. Maybe they consulted with their doctors and they're doing that for that reason there alone, or maybe their history. So anyway, we covered enough of this.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Coach.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, no matter what now, it's not like if you're unvaccinated or vaccinated that you're any better than the other, because vaccinated people are spreading it and unvaccinated are spreading it also. I mean, it is what it is, but I just wish there was a more of a unified band of people or that could convince us all that we could do things together, and maybe we could do it together differently. I don't know. It's just frustrating.
Yep. So with that right there, I think it's time we wrap this one up, Coach, because I think you have things you got to do. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to say from the coach.
And to my favorite guest and the vet.
All right. So stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned.